Hi guys, my name is Sarah Joy Roberts. I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I'm certified in herbs. I'm a master medicine maker. And I live in New Hampshire and it's a gorgeous day. So I'd like you all to take an herb walk with me. First, I'd just like to make a quick announcement for any of my peeps that didn't see my last video. I am reopening Acupuncture Care Center. So you can call the office if you'd like to book an appointment. But I am continuing to do virtual vibrational acupuncture with biofield tuning using tuning forks on Wednesdays and Fridays and some Saturday mornings. So come with me if you're willing. We're going to start right over here. Here's some Queen Anne's lace. Queen Anne's lace gets its name because the flowers look like lace. And you will see that in the center of the flower there is a spot that sometimes is red. In the this morning it looked a lot more red, but you see that dark spot in the middle? So that's like a like if a lace maker pricked their finger and there's the spot of blood. So there's 3 different reasons why this could be called Queen Anne's lace, and the first would be for Saint Anne, who is the patron saint of lace makers. But it could also be Queen Anne, and there's 2 different Queen Annes. So the first would be Anne Boleyn, and she did wear the lace collar, and the blood would be from having her head chopped off. Also, because Queen Anne's lace is used for female disorders, especially involving childbirth. That's another reason it could be named for Anne Boleyn. And then it could be named for Queen Anne, who was the only queen to run the American colonies. And actually the name Queen Anne's lace is an American name. And then the lace would be the Puritan collar that she wore. So the other name for Queen Anne's lace is wild carrot, and in fact all carrots are bred from Queen Anne's lace, and the root is edible, but it's a lot more bitter and pungent, whereas the carrot that we tend to eat, the hybrid, is a lot sweeter, the root is a lot bigger, and the plants don't tend to have so many flowers. So this is in the family Apiaceae, same family as parsley. And the uses are similar. Parsley leaf is used for urinary problems. For Queen Anne's lace, you use the seeds and you also use the root. I would tend to more use the seeds in tincture form. And it can be used for retaining fluid, so dropsy, fluid buildup in the legs. It can also be used for urinary stones and gout, because it does help with calcifications. It helps break up calcifications in the body. Its most favored use would be for female problems. It actually helps get the uterine lining to shed all the thick blood, so it's used for endometriosis. It is used as contraceptive if you take it regularly. You can also use it to clear the womb, and when you stop using it, you become extra fertile. It tones the uterine lining. So if you were using it as a contraceptive and then you forgot to take it, well, you're in trouble. So I wouldn't suggest using it as a contraceptive at all. So Queen Anne's lace, wild carrot, also used for rheumatic pain, arthritis, because it does disperse wind and help drain extra fluid. And in Chinese medicine, arthritis is considered wind damp obstruction of the joints. So now you know all the uses of Queen Anne's lace, plus the historical facts behind it. So here is yarrow. And I just wanted to show you these flowers because they've bloomed since I showed this to you before, and these flowers have this pinkish tinge to them. So this is wild yarrow. There are yellow flowered varieties that you can buy in nursery stores that has known medicinal value. You want the wild yarrow. And the Swiss wild yarrow would be this pink variety, whereas in the United States it tends to be more white. And in fact, I've had this yarrow plant for a while and it even seems to be turning white. The flowers aren't as pink as they used to be. It looks like they lose their coloring with time, because you can see these older flowers they're not white, but they're still just barely pink. And here is one of the most commonly known herbs, Echinacea. So Echinacea is used as an antibacterial. You would use this the first couple days that you start having cold symptoms. After a couple days, if you're still getting sick, then I would move on to something else. It's not that strong of an antibacterial and it doesn't do much else. Some people have used Echinacea daily as a preventative, and I don't suggest that at all, because it is antibacterial. It will kill all the healthy flora in your gut and you'll end up with a yeast overgrowth. So really, Echinacea should be used every few hours at the first onset of symptoms. And the best way to make a tincture of Echinacea is to use all of its parts. So when it starts to flower, you want to pick the flowers and some leaves. And then in the fall, pick some seeds and some root. And what I usually do is I'll pick the flowers and the leaves, cut them all up, put them in alcohol, but I'm leaving room. I'm using an extra big jar. So then in the fall, I dig up some root, get some seeds, cut that all up, add it, and then keep it in add more alcohol, and then wait at least 6 weeks, strain it out, and there you have your tincture of Echinacea. A really good Echinacea tincture will make your tongue tingle, and Echinacea is also really good for just rinsing out the mouth. So you would do like a dropper of Echinacea tincture in some hot water, let it cool a little, and then swish it around your mouth. Clean out your gums, your tongue of any unhealthy bacteria. Here is some wild oregano. So this is Oreganum vulgara. This is the wild variety, not the culinary kind, although I do use it in cooking all the time. I don't even bother to grow the other kind. So the wild oregano is stronger for its antimicrobial properties. It is especially antifungal. I make oh, there's the cat's tail. I make a salve using this herb, and it is good for shingles. It's good for yeast overgrowth if you have like toenail fungus. It's good for yeast rashes if you get sweating and like during hot weather with sweating you get yeast rashes on your body. It's good for that. I've also used it for diaper rash. So it is considered antiviral, and people are using it for its antiviral properties as well. You can buy it in stores. You have to be really careful that you are getting the real oregano, wild oregano oil, and that it isn't the essential oil. You don't want to take essential oils directly into your body. So when you buy a tincture of wild oregano, it will usually be in olive oil. And it is so strong that you literally only use 1 to 4 drops, and it must be in water. If you put it directly into your mouth, it will burn your mucous membranes. So you put like 4 drops in water and drink that. And if you are having viral symptoms, I would suggest doing it every few hours. Also good for herpes because it is antiviral. This plant right here with the red berry is Goldenseal. It is antibacterial. You use the root. It is an endangered species. I planted this myself. It isn't something that you're going to usually find in your backyard. It's endangered because it needs a very specific habitat to grow. And there are herbal sanctuaries and herbal growers such as Zach's Woods Herb Farm in Vermont that have a mission to recreate the environment that Goldenseal needs, and they keep planting more and more, and they actually propagate it by just using cuttings of the root. And it takes like 5 years for a plant to get this big, and this isn't even that big. It's just got that one little berry on it. So this is an endangered species mainly because like American ginseng, long ago the Chinese came and harvested a lot of it. But it has also been over-harvested recently by American farmers, American herbalists, American growers. So it's got a very, very yellow root. And you can buy the powder, you can buy the tincture, you can buy it in capsules. I always recommend not using capsules. Tincture would be better. I know of people that have snuffed golden root powder for a sinus infection. I tend to use the tincture, and I've used Goldenseal tincture for really bad bacterial infections, even septicemia. But I've also had septicemia so bad that I really needed to go to the hospital and get on IV antibiotics. You don't want to mess around, but at the onset of something that you know is bacterial, large doses of Goldenseal will work. This is Marjoram, so same family as oregano, and it looks just like the oregano plant, but this is Marjoram. It's wild marjoram, which is used for muscle spasms and cramping. So I actually make a salve that has the marjoram in the oil, but then I also add essential oil of marjoram. So I wanted to show you these wild lettuce plants. I had showed them to you earlier. I just wanted to show you how big they are. They are now like feet above my head, and I'm 5'5". So I had said that they got up to 5 feet, but these are more like 7 feet. And here you can see that it is starting to flower. So the flowers haven't opened yet, but I would pick that now for medicinal purposes. This is the peak of its time. It's just starting to flower. Perfect timing. And again, what I use this for is pain. It's a mild opiate. It's extremely safe. It's non-addictive. And I use it with wintergreen and poppy seeds. And when you tincture wild lettuce, you want to make sure that you add some apple cider vinegar. And of course, I would only use unpasteurized organic apple cider vinegar from a good source. The vinegar helps to pull out alkaloids, which are plant chemicals that have medicinal value, whereas the alcohol will not pull out all the alkaloids that make this plant help people get off of OxyContin or deal with inflammatory pain such as low back pain. So here we have some Motherwort. Motherwort I started from seed years ago, and it just reseeds itself, so I'm constantly weeding Motherwort out of the garden, but then I do let some grow because it is extremely helpful. And you can see how beautiful the little pink flowers are. This is in the mint family, so very, very safe. I use it a lot for children. It clears heat, and it is also something that helps calm hyperactivity. So I use this for childhood fevers, and I also use this for childhood headaches, and it helps sleep. So you can also use it before bed for sleep. And this I use in tincture form. When the flowers start to dry, when the flowers when they start to bud, they get a little sharp. So I don't really like to use it in tea form, because I do like to pick it when it starts to flower. This one is pretty perfect because it doesn't really have any sharp seeds, although I kind of do, yeah, right down here. These are sharp. And you wouldn't want to accidentally get that stuck in your throat when you're drinking tea. So mainly I use it in tincture form, and it makes a really dark, strong tincture. You can pretty much see the medicine like swirling on the top of the tincture. So it clears heat, and it does aid in sleep, so also extremely useful for hot flashes. And it's named Motherwort because it's used for aiding childbirth. And another thing that Motherwort is used for is tachycardia. It will lower heart rate in people that have high heart rate. It is also used for blood pressure, but I think hawthornberry is a little safer to use for lowering or stabilizing blood pressure levels. And on the other side of the fence, I've got some jewelweed growing. This is just wild jewelweed. It reseeds itself like crazy. Another name is touch me not. And it's called touch me not because it has seed pods that explode when you touch them. So that is the way that they disseminate their seeds. And the major use of, oh, here is one right here. Right here. So if you touch it, well, that one's not right, but usually they explode. I will find one. So the major use of jewelweed is for poison ivy. So you can see that these stalks are pretty thick. They have a lot of moisture in them, so you could juice this and use it on poison ivy. It is the antidote for poison ivy, and sure enough, wherever you find poison ivy, you will usually find jewelweed, because nature is good to us. Just like the best herbs for allergies start flowering in allergy season. So here is plantain. Plantain you can find anywhere. This is an extremely useful plant. The seeds, this is the seed stalk. The seeds are eaten by birds and is also psyllium, which is used for cleansing the intestines. It actually bulks up in the intestines and helps drag toxins out. When you do take psyllium, it's like Metamucil. Metamucil should be made out of psyllium. I wouldn't use Metamucil, I would just buy psyllium husks because it's non-commercial and probably safer. If you take just Metamucil and you don't take something to help it slide, you can actually end up with more constipation. So I would take it with psyllium husks with either omega-3 fatty acids like fish oil or flaxseed oil, or you can take it with aloe vera gel, which is extremely good for your gut. And I'm going to be giving these to the chickens. There's one right next to me. But the chickens will love these psyllium husks. So medicinal value in the leaves is that it draws out toxins. So if you have a cut and it has dirt in it, then plantain will literally pull the dirt out of a cut. So I put the plantain in Warrior Solve, which can be used on deep cuts that aren't clean. Another use for plantain would be like a bite or a sting from mosquito, tick, spider, wasp, bee. And I also have used plantain for poison ivy. So if you have a really bad sting, then you pick the plantain and you put it in hot water. You put the leaves in hot water and you let the water cool, and then you take the leaves and you place it on the sting. So I did the same thing for poison ivy and it did help. But usually with poison ivy, I get poison ivy pretty bad. So I usually have to use a lot of different things. It's like my body gets used to something, it works, it gets used to it, and then I have to move to something else. So as you can see, the chickens are kind of excited. They're going to eat all those leaves and they're going to eat those seeds. So here's a lot more plantain, and this is more the size that I tend to pick it. And what I would pick would be this nice kind of fresher leaf that's a lighter green. Anything like this that's been eaten, I wouldn't pick. This one's really okay, but I favor it when it's a little younger. And plantain is everywhere. Here's another really good one to pick. So this is another variety of plantain. It just looks a little different. The leaves are long and skinny, and the seeds are smaller. So it can be used exactly the same way. It's still plantain. It just looks a little different. It's just a different variety. And here is some poison ivy. When I moved onto this property in 2009, we had no poison ivy. Now it's all up and down the street and it's creeping into my yard. Very unfortunate. Obviously, not a medicinal plant, just showing you again what poison ivy looks like, because you all should know. And then here it is going absolutely rampant all over the place on the side of the street. So I take the dog for a walk and the dog gets in the poison ivy, but the way that I tend to get poison ivy is on the cats. Because the cats go in and then they come in. I mean, they go out, they do whatever they want, they come in, and I love my cats so much, I spend too much time petting them and I end up with poison ivy. You get poison ivy because your immune system is overreacting to the poison on the leaves, which would be oils. And that's why it's so hard to wash off, and people will use detergent, dish detergent, to wash their hands to get the poison ivy off. So really what I should do is every time the cats come in, I should wipe them down with a cloth. But that would take up like half of my day. What's more important is to just keep my immune system up by not getting overly stressed out. I get poison ivy because I'm stressed out and my immune system becomes weak. Nettles is really good to take when you have an allergic reaction. It is the #1 antihistamine, and it also strengthens your adrenals. Adrenal fatigue, weak kidneys is what happens when you have too much stress. I walked all the way up the street to show you this plant. It's poke root, and of course somebody is doing something that's noisy. But we will continue. So poke root, you would use the root, is used to cleanse the lymph. It is the #1 anti-breast cancer herb. Also good for lymphoma. So that makes sense, right? Because the breast is full of ducts. And breast cancer usually will go into the lymph glands. So the part of the poke root that's used is the root, and it's actually extremely caustic. You would want to put on like a very severely good pair of rubber gloves if you were going to dig up the root. And be very careful with your eyes. You might even want eye protection. Poke root has these white flowers, and in the fall they will have purple berries that are almost black. They'll be red and then they'll get darker and darker and darker until they're like black. And poke root I use mostly for ear problems in children and infants. So I'll do 1 drop poke root and 1 drop Goldenseal root if a child has an ear infection, and you would do that at least 3 times a day, but maybe up to 5 times a day for an ear infection. And you're giving it to the child orally. You're not putting it in their ear. So poke root is anti-cancer. I tend to think that herbs grow where they're needed, so I'm actually rather pleased I don't have any poke root in my yard. I would not dig this one up. It's right on the side of the road. This plant right here is called wood nettle. It is not a medicinal plant, but it is a wild edible. So you can eat it like spinach. And you would want to do this in the spring before it starts to flower, because once it starts to flower, the leaves get more bitter. You can eat it now, it wouldn't poison you, it just tastes better in the spring. Here's a better example, much bigger. You can see the leaves a little better. And then there's one laying on the ground. So obviously I wouldn't pick this, it's right on the side of the road, but this is very easy to find in the woods or in your backyard. So I'm finishing off with this little garden that somebody has placed right next to the road, because this is a really good example of what you do not want to do. They've got their tomato plants, their kale plants, there's a zucchini plant and a broccoli in the back. So the reason you don't want to plant your garden right next to the road is because every time a car drives by, it's getting exhaust fumes all over those leaves. And the soil itself is contaminated with road salt and tar, road salt is very caustic. If you get road salt in your well, it's time to dig a new well. So these plants are absorbing what's in the soil, and it will be in what you're eating. So you see farms that have their fields all the way up to the road. I like to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they are using that as a barrier to protect the inner plants, and they're not actually harvesting and selling what's right up against the road. Thank you guys, you made it to the end of my video. Just want to let you know that I appreciate you listening to me ramble on about my herbs and your herbs, because they are free for anyone who cares to look for them. Hit subscribe and like for me, I'd appreciate it very much, and you make it a great day. Because as my friend Quinn says, only you can make it a great day. Stay positive, keep smiling, and if you're feeling down, find some way to serve someone else. Thank you.